IGC News. Bima Ovidia Aquaba, Hadia latest and hot news and qua enamade Bremo and Zawina subscriber. Obodia say over subscribe to the channel. What the other answer over the subscribe button now what barely notification. We answer video be uploaded so once as by can I feel we are now like give us a thumbs up now share my opposite when you be here now and summer echo. Afriyie and Sammy Abeto Yapanso. The name a year founders there, Akufo Addo Nsense Kofa by Yen separate. Just say a year Kwame Nkrumah, the founder of Ghana, now the name Wafa, IGP Dampare and Afraba account. Now, this year founders. Now, when a year Nkrumah, the Bawumia, a year Sekou Nkrumah, Abeto be their money, a year Akufo Addo, English, the founders, the Nsense. So, a year historian. Anochi or the assembly Akagafa a Sansom Wig now. Now, yes, Sembrano and Tentemara, and Summer a year Nkrumah, a year Sekou Nkrumah, and historian, 117.
Son of Ghana's first president, Dr. Sekou Nkrumah, says President Akufo Addo is living in the emotions of the past, hence the constant talking of Founders' Day debates. The latest comment follows what has been yet another weekend of a back and forth over who founded present-day Ghana. Speaking to TV3, Dr. Sekou Nkrumah said the controversy about Founders' Day could have been avoided.
The Big Six, their role, we all understand their role. I mean, they were even in prison and so on. But I'm saying it's a bit exaggerated when you look at the context of Ghana's independence, because it was really Nkrumah who changed the dynamics. So my point is that the president is still living in the emotions of the past and still unable to let go of what happened in the past. And I'm saying that we all agree that Nkrumah led Ghana to independence. The issue of the founder is because when he was president and Ghana became a republic, it just became natural that he would then be the founder. It was just symbolic in that sense. But I'm saying, if you look at it today, yes, people can argue that, oh, but there were others who had started the struggle or were involved in the struggle with him. But the point is that he captured power and he led us to independence, and he became first prime minister in 52. I mean, head of government business 51, 52 prime minister. Led Ghana to independence in 57, and then became president of the First Republic in 1960. So let's not take that away from him. I mean, it is we can't really argue with that. But I'm saying that at the same time, we all accept the contribution that others made, and actually they even invited him to become the general secretary of the UGGC. But the UGGC was not really doing what it's supposed to be as a mass movement.
Founders' Day, and the conversation has always been about whether the apostrophe is before the S or after the S. So one of the country's long-standing debates is the date for the celebration of Founders' Day and whether or not it was a collective decision. In this report by Evelyn Tingma, it has gone on to say that while some say Dr. Kwame Nkrumah is the sole founder of the country, others, including President Akufo Addo, hold the view that many individuals contributed to the founding of Ghana. Let's watch this report.
The late President John Evans Atta Mills in September 2009 declared September 21 the centenary of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's birthday to be Founders' Day and a statutory holiday. President Akufo Addo, upon assuming office, changed the celebration date to August 4 with the backing of a legislation and made it Founders' Day to include other members of the Big Six.
I speak to you this evening rejecting completely the notion that Ghana was founded by one man. Whilst Kwame Nkrumah's contributions to our independence are undeniable and unassailable, it is important to acknowledge for our self-respect that the struggle for our nation's freedom was a collective effort.
His view on the matter came under attack in what some say was skewed to suit his father, Edward Akufo Addo, and his two uncles, J.B. Danquah and William Ofori Atta. Political historian and an aspiring presidential candidate of the CPP, Yaw Anochifrempong, accused the president of distorting history.
It was Nkrumah's personal charisma and ambition and vision that united this country. And so when you talk of who is the founder of the country, don't make a mistake to say that we have founders. His uncle's UGGC got dissolved, never to come back to life after the 1951 election. Then in 1954, his uncle J.B. Dankwa lost his seat in parliament and he became politically irrelevant. Lawyers will say otious, never to resurrect again in politics. And so he was made a Chafuhene of Achim Ebuakwa.
He argued those members of the UGCC were against Ghana's freedom and cannot take history for what they did not fight for.
Buziat was the one who wrote a letter to the British government entitled, "Are you leaving us so soon?" In fact, he felt so peeved that nobody could win independence apart from Kwame Nkrumah. After that, everybody hated Nkrumah and nobody wanted the independence. If they had not done that, we would have had our independence latest in 1953. And the British felt that the country was not united. It was only Kwame Nkrumah's CPP, that was a national party, that was the party whose leader Nkrumah moved the motion of destiny for us to get our independence. That was the party that gave us the national anthem. That was the party that gave us the national flag. That was the party that gave us a nation.
Anoche Frimpong believes there would be a reverse of the dates soon.
You cannot change history. It will never be possible. No condition is permanent and nobody will be on top forever. Even if I were not contesting, I would still say that those coming will change it because no bad thing has to stay. All bad things must change and good things will have to come to their place.
Until that is done, the debate on the country's history would continue, which most political historians say is not healthy for the younger generation.
Of people started the war before Kwame Nkrumah was brought in. But when you wanted to push him back to 1897, the professor made you to know that the aim of the Aborigines Rights Protection Society was to protest against the Lands Bill. And they never went to Britain to ask for independence. And when they became successful in that regard, the organization dwindled and eventually fizzled out its position to be taken by the National Congress of British West Africa. Now it is true that the United Gold Coast Convention was formed by a group of people and with the slogan, self-government within the shortest possible time. That alone should tell you that they were also aimed at fighting for independence. But where I want to go is the fact that Pa Grant was a businessman, a timber merchant. All the other leading members of the party were full-time businessmen and or lawyers who did not have time to do active politics. Two.
We know this was like part-time work for them, as and when they had time.
Part-time. And to make it even worse, people should begin to know that most of the leading members were also members of the colonial parliament, the legislative assembly. It was the Legislative Council, like Grant representing Sekendi, Dankwa representing Achimebuakwa, Awuna Williams, Obechebi Lamte. They were already members of the colonial parliament and therefore never in the haste for the fight for independence. And so they thought that there must be somebody who would have to be the active administrator of the UGCC, do it full time, give him a car, give him £100 a month, so that the organization would be kept relevant until the time that the white man, the colonial master, decide to leave the country. Then we will be seen as a people prepared to take over. And that was why Nkrumah was brought in after the suggestion of Akufo Addo. Now when he came, he had a different notion altogether, as Professor was saying. Professor would agree with me. He's an astute political scientist. He was my lecturer. Professor would agree with me that Kwame Nkrumah had studied in the US with about 50 countries coming together as one. And so he never believed in the idea of looking for independence for the colony. And at that time, the colony was Western Province, Sekendi Takoradi, Central Province, Cape Coast, Eastern Province, Accra. Transvolta Togoland was not part of it. Ashanti was being ruled by proclamations.
Those would come
and they're not, yes.
Yeah.
So UGCC, even when you look at the bill, our city, you see that the people captured there, none of them was from Volta. Who told you that Voltarians have not all the time had great scholars to be part of this organization? Talk about Northerners, talk about Ashanti, Bono, they were not there because it was restricted to the colony. And everybody knows that J.B. Dankwa in his writings had suggested the name Akanman for Ghana. Then when Nkrumah came, he augmented the two branches of the UGCC he came to find. One in Accra, one in Sekendi. You know, within 4 months, he had transformed it into 500 branches. And they were angry with him. Second, 1948 riots. It was suspected that Nkrumah and Akwaje were those who pushed the ex-servicemen to do all that they did. In any case, Akwaje joined the others. So when they were writing their caution statements, they were very careful not to talk about independence. It was Nkrumah who, in his raw caution statement, a copy of which I have read, stated that he was the one, he would just take the blame for all that had happened because he wanted independence. And then the rest were put in prison in Kumasi. He was put in prison in Tamale. Then the Watson Commission said they should be released, and they were released. Thereafter, as Professor had already told you, his ideas were fundamentally different from the rest. So what will happen was that he will break away. When he broke away, and this is the beginning of the story, when Kwame Nkrumah broke away, and what makes him the founder of the nation is that, having formed the CPP, he made sure, as his organization skills had always been, the party would be a national party. But the National Liberation Movement that broke away from the CPP because of cocoa and other agitations became an Ashanti party. Then the northern people who felt that during the colonial period, the white man had designed an imaginary line between the north and south so that no northerners should be sent to school, so that they would do watchman work, so many things unprintable. You know, felt after independence, they would, instead of the white man, serve the black man. That one, they would decide to go away. So they formed the Northern People's Party. Then the Transvolta people...
Which later would become problematic moving forward because we didn't want parties formed on ethnic lines.
So the
later,
same
that would
Kwame
become
Nkrumah later would move for the avoidance of discrimination yeah, so that all of them will be put together. So you will see that Transvolta Togoland Party and the SG Anto, SD Dombo's party, Bafo Akoto's party, and then Gashifi Mope Muslim Association Party were all sectional or sectorial in kind and therefore could not have won independence for the country. That was the reason why in the 1954 elections, the CPP won seats in every part of the country, but NLM was restricted to Ashanti and then others restricted to wherever they came from. So you see how we say Nkrumah was the founder of the nation, but for Kwame Nkrumah, the UGCC having been dismantled after the 1951 election. In fact, we had 38 seats, and Kwame Nkrumah won 34 seats. Correct. UGCC won 3, independent 1. And after that, they fizzled out. Then the Ashanti people, there is a piece of tribalism in politics. The Ashantis have never liked the Achimebuakwa people. So when they realized Park Grant had become very old, J.B. Dankwa was very pre-eminent. The Santehene preferred Kwame Nkrumah to J.B. Dankwa. So when his people would not allow him, they would break away from the CPP. They rather went for Professor Kofi Abrefa Buzia, then an Ashanti. I say then an Ashanti because even though a Bono from Wenchi, at that time, Bono Hafu was Western Ashanti. So they chose their own man. Please, J.B. Dankwa died in 1965. He didn't die in 1954. But the Matimehu tradition, the UP tradition, and the LM tradition did not go for him. Did not go for him. So he became politically irrelevant. Then, because of the troubles, Nkrumah couldn't have independence. And then a new one, 1956. Please, if you want me to read something here, very short.
Just briefly.
Brief. I will say that in
Where are you reading from?
Oh, very good. Proceedings of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences. Yes, 1974.
Dated which year? 1974.
Yes,
right.
And this is the piece written by Joe Appiah. No. And the title is The Man J.B. Dankwa. And he says that in 1950, the dawning of Gold Coast politics, speaking about Dankwa, lost his Abuakwa constituency seat to a nephew of his. J.B. was shocked to the marrow of his bones by this defeat. Then to continue from page 29, he says, in 1955, the State Council of his home state of Achimabuakwa, in recognition of all his services, and stood JB as the Trafohene of Achimabuakwa. That was the highest accolade that he got to. He fizzled out. But today,
Juicy News on
well,
YouTube.
before I say it, but today, let's continue that.
Juicy News
9 full years before we had independence, Kwame Nkrumah had put together the students of Mfansipim, Adesadel and Augustins and their teachers who had been dismissed because they had gone out to support all the demonstrations for the 1948 riots. He put them together, set up a school at Cape Coast, and he called the name of the school Ghana National College. That was 9 full years before Ghana's independence. So please, I would never accept any argument to the effect that J.B. Dankwa, who had written in all the theses that he made that Ghana should be called Akanman, would metaphors into becoming the originator of the name Ghana. 2, it was Nkrumah who moved the motion of destiny, and Professor knows it, that we needed our independence. And please, I hope you also agree with me when I say that Buzia wrote a letter to the British government with the title, "Are you leaving us so soon?"
I'm aware of.
Certainly, I love people like this. That's why I started by saying he's very dishonest. So if Buzia...
Dishonest?
I started by saying very honest. It was a slip of tongue. It's good you corrected me. So if Buzia and Dankwa are coming from the same stock, and as Professor said, at a certain point, they wanted to pull us back. And this person, with all his charisma, pushed us forward. And we had independence, internal one up to 1957, and then the de jure one, the de jure I mentioned, from 1957 upwards. He, on the days, that day he stood up, it was with his comrades that he declared independence. This book, if I had continued, would have told you that J.B. Dankwa was standing in the crowd, observing Kwame Nkrumah and others. Again, Nkrumah gave us our national flag. You will read that he and that Madam Theodosia Okon, they put together and then they made the flag. Please, it was not anybody but Nkrumah who looked at the flag. And the woman even said, "Let me put in so many stars like the American flag." And Nkrumah said, "I need only one, the black star." And then the national anthem, Philip Beho was commissioned by Nkrumah to do it. And then the national crest, Emonikwe, was commissioned by Nkrumah to do it. And then what again? The name, I have said it. And then on 6th March, Kwame Nkrumah mentioned Ghana. J.B. Dankwa was not there to give any support. Buzia did not appear, even though he was opposition leader, because he had written to the British not to give us independence. He was so scared to be on the podium that day, even though it should have been a national affair. And so, if from class 1, F.K. Boa and all others, including even Kwame Nkrumah's arch enemy, Dubois, would tell us in history that Kwame Nkrumah was the founder of Ghana. And our president, whom I admire so much, is telling us that he was not the founder. I believe it will be a very much of an abuse of language.
Yo, Winnie, and somewhere Sekou Nkrumah ba Edituga, Afriyie, Founders Day, or to be money a year Akufo Addo, Sasso, and a historian. I'm not sure what they and simply Africa 5 years as a week now. Because GC so and so we now subscribe or body I say over subscribe to the channel. So I say had the latest and hot news and enemy Bremo. Also bet me at what being a fire so we now will comment box me over in my next video.
Thanks for watching. Like and share the video. You can also drop your comment. Please don't forget to subscribe. Click on the bell to turn on the notification.